When films moved from silent to talkies in the late 1920s and early 1930s, careers changed, actors changed, heroes changed. Many famous actors and actresses immediately lost the limelight and went to darkness. For some, it was a good move, but for some, it was the end of their careers. Here are 17 silent film stars whose prominence diminished with the advent of sound films. John Gilbert. John Gilbert was a prominent leading man of the silent era. He was known for his roles in romantic dramas and hailed as one of Hollywood's most popular male stars. His intense screen presence, expressive face, and dashing good looks made him an icon of silent cinema, especially in films like The Big Parade and Flesh and the Devil, where he often starred opposite Greta Garbo. However, when sound films emerged in the late 1920s, Gilbert's career encountered unexpected obstacles. One significant issue was Gilbert's voice. Unlike many of his silent film contemporaries, Gilbert's voice was not poorly suited for sound. He had a clear and relatively pleasant tone. However, his voice did not match the romantic image he had established during the silent era. Some audiences felt that his voice, combined with his dramatic acting style, seemed too exaggerated for the more naturalistic dialogue-driven scenes in talkies. Gilbert's acting style, characterized by grand gestures and intense expressions, also clashed with the subtler demands of sound film. Furthermore, his off-screen life was marked by personal and professional issues, particularly with studio head Louis B. Mayer. It's rumored that Mayer had personal animosity toward Gilbert and deliberately sabotaged his career by giving him roles that accentuated perceived weaknesses in his voice and by insisting on poor scripts. Despite his attempts to adapt, Gilbert's film roles gradually diminished, and he was no longer offered the leading parts that had defined his silent film legacy. He ultimately retired from acting in the early 1930s, having lost the popularity and status he once enjoyed. Clara B. Clara B, famously known as the It Girl, was the epitome of flapper glamour and the vivacious spirit of the 1920s. Her natural charisma, energy, and infectious smile won her a massive following during the silent film era. Beau's on-screen presence was magnetic, and her performances in films like It and Wings solidified her status as a beloved star. Her carefree attitude and expressive, larger-than-life persona made her a perfect fit for the silent screen, where exaggerated expressions and movements were crucial for conveying emotion without sound. However, when sound films, or talkies, emerged, Beau's career began to falter. The transition to sound required more than just good looks and expressive acting. A pleasant speaking voice, controlled dialogue delivery, and adaptation to new filming technologies became essential. Beau, who had a strong Brooklyn accent and a distinctive voice, did not easily fit into the expectations of the new medium. Early sound technology was also unforgiving, as it amplified every vocal nuance and inflection, making even the slightest imperfections obvious. While her voice wasn't particularly problematic, she felt uncomfortable with the demands of recording dialogue and struggled with the technical restrictions imposed by sound equipment. Beyond the technical challenges, Beau faced significant personal struggles during this time. Her tumultuous personal life, marked by financial issues, family pressures, and a series of mental health challenges, took a toll on her well-being. Studios also put immense pressure on her to conform to the changing standards of Hollywood, which left her feeling increasingly alienated from the industry she once dominated. Overwhelmed by these combined pressures, Beau chose to retire in the early 1930s at the age of 28, stepping away from the spotlight. Vilma Banky. Vilma Banky, a Hungarian-born actress renowned for her beauty and delicate, ethereal screen presence, became a celebrated star of silent films in Hollywood. Known for her roles alongside leading men such as Rudolph Valentino in The Son of the Sheik and Ronald Colman in The Winning of Barbara Worth, Banky's career flourished during the 1920s. Her elegance and grace, combined with her strong on-screen chemistry with these stars, made her an icon of romance in the silent era. Banky's soft, expressive features suited the close-ups that silent films favored, allowing her to convey deep emotion without the need for words. When sound films emerged, however, Banky's career encountered significant obstacles. Her thick Hungarian accent presented a notable challenge in an industry that demanded clear, easily understood voices. Early sound technology was less forgiving, amplifying her accent and making her dialogue difficult for American audiences to follow. Unlike some silent stars who adapted to voice training, Banky did not attempt to change her speech pattern or accent, as she had little interest in making the transition. Her roles, which often cast her as the archetype of mysterious foreign beauty, did not lend themselves well to sound cinema, where verbal expression was becoming increasingly crucial to character development. Moreover, Banky's personal priorities shifted around this time. She married actor Rod LaRock in 1927, and as her enthusiasm for Hollywood began to wane, she found herself drawn to a more private life, away from the pressures of the industry. Norma Talmage. Norma Talmage was a major star of the silent film era, loved for her beauty and dramatic talent. She had a graceful, elegant presence and was known for roles in films like Smilin' Through and Kiki. With her mother and husband, producer Joseph M. Schenck, guiding her career, she enjoyed both success and control in Hollywood, which was rare for actresses at the time. However, when sound films took over, things changed quickly for Norma. Her voice didn't fit her refined screen image. Some audiences found it too high-pitched or shrill. Her acting style, full of big expressions and gestures, didn't translate well to talkies, which required more natural speech and subtler movements. The early criticism and struggles with sound films made her lose interest, and by the early 1930s, she chose to retire. Harold Lloyd. Harold Lloyd was a huge silent film star, especially loved for his daring stunts and everyman character. Known for funny, thrilling scenes like hanging off clocks in Safety Last, he became a top comedian alongside legends like Charlie Chaplin. But when sound films arrived, his style of comedy faced challenges. Lloyd's humor was all about physical gags and wild stunts, but audiences in the sound era wanted more dialogue and verbal humor, not just action. While Lloyd's voice actually worked well in talkies, the style of comedy was changing, and his type of humor felt old-fashioned. He made some successful sound films, like Welcome Danger, but they didn't have the same magic. With the industry moving toward faster, cheaper films, Lloyd's time-intensive style just didn't fit. By the 1930s, he stepped away from acting, turning to real estate. Dayne. Dayne was a Danish-born actor best known for his comedic roles in silent films. With his tall, lanky frame and expressive face, he brought a unique charm to his characters, often playing humorous sidekicks. Films like The Big Parade made him popular, and he became a well-loved figure in silent cinema for his funny, memorable performances. However, when sound films came along, things changed drastically for Dayne. His thick Danish accent made it hard for audiences to understand him in talkies, which quickly became a serious barrier. In a time when Hollywood wanted clear, easy-to-understand voices, Dayne's heavy accent didn't fit, and roles started drying up. As his career declined, he faced financial difficulties and personal struggles, which led to a deep sense of isolation. Sadly, after years of hardship, Dayne passed away in 1934. Colleen Moore. Colleen Moore was one of the silent era's biggest stars, known for her lively personality and fashionable flapper roles. Her famous bob haircut and playful spirit made her a symbol of the 1920s, with films like Ella Cinders and Flaming Youth making her a beloved figure. Audiences adored her for her bubbly charm, and she became a trendsetter both on and off the screen. However, when sound films took over, Moore's career faced challenges. Although her voice wasn't a major issue, the kinds of roles she was famous for, the carefree, youthful flapper, started to fall out of fashion. Hollywood's focus shifted to more mature, dialogue-heavy dramas, which didn't align with Moore's established image. She attempted a few sound films but quickly found that the new direction of the industry didn't suit her style. Rather than adapt, Moore chose to step away from acting, retiring in the early 1930s. She later focused on her other interests, including building intricate dollhouses. Gloria Swanson. Gloria Swanson was a huge star of the silent film era, celebrated for her glamorous style and dramatic roles. Known for films like Sadie Thompson and Male and Female, she played complex, strong-willed women and became an icon of Hollywood's golden age. Swanson's elaborate costumes and larger-than-life persona made her a favorite among audiences, who saw her as the epitome of Hollywood sophistication. When sound films emerged, Swanson's career faced unexpected challenges. Although she had a good speaking voice, her grand, theatrical acting style, perfect for silent films, didn't fit well with the new naturalistic style of talkies. Additionally, Hollywood began favoring younger stars, and Swanson's established persona felt somewhat out of step with the changing industry. She did make a few sound films, but they didn't capture the same magic as her silent hits. Swanson chose to retire from acting in the early 1930s and shifted her focus to business and other ventures. However, she made a remarkable comeback years later on Sunset Boulevard, 1950, where she portrayed a faded silent star, reminding audiences of her legacy. Douglas Fairbanks. Douglas Fairbanks was one of the most iconic stars of silent cinema, known for his athletic stunts and roles as swashbuckling heroes in films like The Mark of Zorro, Robin Hood, and The Thief of Baghdad. With his charm, boundless energy, and daring performances, he became Hollywood's ultimate action hero, captivating audiences around the world with his adventurous spirit. However, when sound films took over, Fairbanks found it hard to adapt. His style of acting relied heavily on grand physical gestures and stunts rather than dialogue, and his larger-than-life performances didn't translate well to the more grounded, dialogue-driven approach of talkies. Additionally, at the age of 50, Fairbanks felt out of place in a Hollywood that was moving towards younger actors and new kinds of stories. Disillusioned by the changes in the industry and no longer feeling the same passion for acting, Fairbanks chose to retire in the early 1930s. He spent his later years traveling and focusing on other interests. Mary Pickford. Mary Pickford was one of the biggest stars of silent movies, known as America's Sweetheart. She charmed audiences with her roles as innocent, youthful characters, and her expressive acting made her a beloved figure worldwide. When sound films, or talkies, came along, Mary faced new challenges. Although she successfully starred in her first sound film, Coquette, and even won an Academy Award for it, she struggled with the changing film industry. The types of roles she was famous for didn't suit her anymore as she got older, and she found it hard to adapt to the new styles of acting and storytelling that sound films required. Mary also missed the artistry of silent films and felt that the magic was fading. Rather than continue in an industry that was moving in a direction she didn't enjoy, she chose to retire from acting in the early 1930s. Mary Pickford remains a legendary figure, remembered for her immense contributions to early cinema and her role in founding United Artists. Buster Keaton. Renowned for his physical comedy and stoic expression, Buster Keaton was a silent film icon. The transition to sound films presented significant challenges for him. His comedic style, heavily reliant on visual gags and physicality, did not seamlessly translate to the dialogue-driven narratives of talkies. Additionally, Keaton's distinctive voice and timing were not as effective in the new medium. Compounding these artistic challenges, Keaton faced personal issues, including struggles with alcoholism and a tumultuous relationship with MGM Studios. The studio imposed creative restrictions, limiting his artistic freedom and leading to a decline in the quality of his work. These factors collectively contributed to the waning of Keaton's prominence in the sound era. Lillian Gish. Lillian Gish was a celebrated actress and is often called the First Lady of American cinema. Known for her delicate beauty and expressive performances, she was a staple of silent films, starring in classics like The Birth of a Nation and Way Down East. Gish's ability to convey deep emotion without words made her a silent film legend, especially under the direction of D.W. Griffith, who recognized her unique talent. When sound films took over, however, Gish's career shifted. Her graceful, almost ethereal acting style, which relied on subtle expressions and gestures, didn't align as well with the new demands of talkies, which favored a more natural and direct style of dialogue delivery. Though she made several successful sound films, Gish found that the types of roles she was known for were less in demand, and she was less interested in adapting to the modern, fast-paced style of Hollywood. Instead, Gish turned to stage work, where her skills were still celebrated and valued. She continued to act for decades, earning respect in theater and television. Cesu Hayakawa. Cesu Hayakawa was one of Hollywood's first major Japanese stars, rising to fame in silent films with his intense and captivating performances. Known for roles in films like The Cheat, he broke stereotypes, often playing complex romantic leads instead of stereotypical villains, which was rare for an Asian actor at the time. His screen presence and nuanced acting made him a celebrated figure both in Hollywood and internationally. However, when sound films arrived, Hayakawa's career in Hollywood faced severe challenges. One major issue was the limited number of roles for Asian actors in the talkie era. Hollywood's early sound films offered very few opportunities for non-white actors, and those that existed were often restricted to stereotypical or minor parts. Despite his talent and popularity, Hayakawa was often typecast in villainous or exotic roles, which didn't align with his ambitions or the depth he brought to his silent film roles. Frustrated with Hollywood's narrow casting and lack of substantial roles, Hayakawa left for Europe, where he continued to act in films more suited to his talent. He later returned to Hollywood and achieved acclaim again in The Bridge on the River Kwai, earning an Oscar nomination. POA Nagri. POA Nagri was a Polish-born actress who rose to stardom in Hollywood during the silent era, known for her vamp roles, characters that were mysterious, seductive, and often dangerous. Her exotic beauty and intense screen presence made her a sought-after star, and she became famous for films like Forbidden Paradise and Hotel Imperial. With her dramatic style and bold persona, Nagri captivated audiences and gained a reputation as one of Hollywood's most glamorous figures. However, when sound films took over, Nagri's career in Hollywood began to falter. Her thick Polish accent made it difficult for her to land roles in American films, as studios were hesitant to cast actors with strong accents in leading roles. Additionally, Hollywood's tastes were shifting away from the exotic vamp type that Nagri embodied. The rise of the girl-next-door archetype made her dramatic, intense style feel out of place in the new era of talkies. Nagri eventually returned to Europe, where her accent and acting style were still appreciated. Although her American career slowed, she continued to work in European films and maintained a devoted following. Thea Thera. Thea Thera was one of Hollywood's earliest and most iconic stars, famed for her portrayal of femme fatale characters. Often called the Vamp, Thera's roles in films like A Fool There Was made her synonymous with mysterious, seductive women who led men to their downfall. With her dark makeup, elaborate costumes, and piercing gaze, she created a unique screen persona that captured the imaginations of audiences worldwide, making her one of the first true movie stars. By the late 1920s, however, Thera's career was already beginning to decline. The popularity of her vamp characters was fading as Hollywood moved toward more realistic, relatable stories and characters. Audiences' tastes were changing, and the exotic allure that had defined Thera's image felt increasingly outdated. When sound films arrived, she chose not to attempt a comeback, as her silent film fame and dramatic style didn't align with the naturalism required in talkies. Without making the leap to sound, Thea Thera's Hollywood career effectively ended. She lived a quieter life afterward, mostly away from the industry, yet she remains a defining figure of early cinema. Thea Thera's vamp persona left a lasting impact, and she is remembered as one of the first and most memorable stars of the silent film era. Rudolph Valentino. Rudolph Valentino was one of silent cinema's biggest stars and Hollywood's first Latin lover. Known for his striking looks, charm, and smoldering screen presence, Valentino captivated audiences in films like The Sheik and Blood and Sand, becoming an international heartthrob. His exotic romantic roles were groundbreaking at the time, and he gained a massive following, especially among female fans. Valentino's influence went beyond film. He became a cultural icon, inspiring fashion, dance trends, and even hairstyles. Tragically, Valentino's career was cut short when he died suddenly in 1926 at just 31 years old, following complications from a perforated ulcer. His unexpected death shocked fans and led to massive public mourning, with thousands attending his funeral and many more mourning worldwide. At the height of his fame, he had never had the chance to transition to sound films, so he remains forever tied to the silent era. Though he didn't live to experience Hollywood's transition to talkies, Valentino's legacy endures as one of cinema's earliest and most iconic stars. Wallace Reed. Wallace Reed was a beloved star of the silent film era, known for his good looks, charm, and action-packed roles. Often cast as the all-American hero, Reed became famous for his roles in films like The Roaring Road and The Love Special, where he played daring characters in fast-paced stories, often featuring thrilling car and train stunts. His athletic build and likable screen presence made him a favorite with audiences, especially women, who saw him as the ultimate romantic lead. Unfortunately, Reed's life took a tragic turn due to an injury on set. After an accident, he was prescribed morphine to manage the pain, which led to a severe addiction. Despite his struggles, he continued working, but his health deteriorated rapidly. Hollywood at the time had little understanding or support for addiction, and Reed's condition worsened until his death in 1923 at only 31 years old. His passing was a significant loss to the silent film industry, and he became one of early Hollywood's first tragic figures.